podcast that talks to the people behind America's brands. I'm Dan Trzynski, president of Platypus Advertising and Design.
And I'm Nancy Christopher, public relations director at Platypus. Our topic today is how to market a brand in a crowded space. And our guest has been a David against Goliath throughout his career. Craig Kuper is an independent mortgage broker, but he's also been a successful marketer in a variety of industries. It's so nice to have you in our studio, Craig.
Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit about all the other companies you've worked with.
Probably one of the most fun ones was Concept Coach Builders. We bought old Rolls Royces and we stretched them.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And we put Chevy engines in them. When you have a Rolls Royce limousine, it probably runs 1 day out of 40. And when you put a Chevy in it, it runs longer. And we built these and took them to many conventions of limousine sales. And actually, Donald Trump sat in one. And,
really?
Yeah, one of our really nice shadows. And keep in mind that Rolls-Royce didn't change their designs that much during that period of time. And I think it was in the 80s that I was doing this. And he sat in the back seat. He was writing a check. And he said, how good is the warranty on this car? And I said, well, it's a used car. I said, we stretch them, put Chevy engines. And he tore up the check and said, never buy a used car.
Oh, jeez.
Got out and took his entourage and left, And I remember doing Las Vegas where our first car barely made it in, and we rolled it in and got it in there, and it was amazing to see people's looking at our stretch Rolls Royces. Everybody had Cadillacs and Lincolns, so that was a fun time.
What else?
A company called National Telecom. Back in the 80s, AT&T broke up. Actually, it was Wisconsin Bell, and they allowed competitive bidding and installing of non-AT&T telephone systems for businesses. Went to work from selling interconnect telephone systems pretty much all over the country, and which led into energy control systems for hotels and electronic locking systems back in the 80s, which was way ahead of its time. And as a matter of fact, I would go in and talk to a hotel manager, and he just couldn't imagine anybody would use a key, not a key, but an electronic swipe to get into a hotel. We sold quite a few of the systems, and we did energy controls, which was kind of load shedding. One room every 10 minutes on a percentage of rooms would shut off their heat and air, which would save them anywhere from 10 to 20% on the energy efficiency of the hotel. Now they use motion sensors. When you go in a hotel room, all of a sudden it shuts off, and you want to move your leg or something to get wave or something to get it going again. Then that company got sold. I went to work for a company called Red Carpet Lanes, and I was pretty young back then. I was 23, and I started buffing the lanes. I did the lane crew, worked in a warehouse for 6 months on pin setters. We bought Japanese bowling equipment. Back in the 70s, bowling was humongous. They would build towers of 200 lanes tall, and everybody would go bowl. Well, the Japanese are such proud people, when they lost, they would never return. And so these bowling alleys started closing up dramatically, and so everybody was buying the equipment back from Japan at half the price and building bowling alleys in the States here. And we would clean them up, steam clean them, rebuild them, and put them into different centers. We had 582 lanes, I think, and 9 bowling centers across the state, red carpet.
Oh, and we were the bowling capital of the world.
Yep. There was 250,000 registered league bowlers in Wisconsin, and Milwaukee County, because there were 88 bowling alleys back then. It was back in the 70s and 80s. And then I went from there to the Red Carpet Hotel and thought I was getting a promotion. I went from 4 days a week to, I think I lived at the hotel as the night manager. And
good thing they had rooms.
Oh, God. It's great when you're young. It
Sure.
was fun, and it was kind of neat. Learned a lot of things. And it's funny how smart you think you are until you're running the place. And when you're the night manager at night, you realize how dumb you are, and, you want to know who's the helpline you can call because you don't have a clue. My first day as night manager, I'll never forget that. We have people that pay for runaway packages to stay at the hotel. Then we have people that just walk in without reservations. We have reservations and corporate accounts. Corporate accounts are your number one people to take care of. The people who have paid for the special packages are number 2 because it's all prepaid and you want to make sure the buses get here. Didn't know this. So I filled up the hotel and I missed a bus full of people. I had no rooms.
Boy.
So I had to get on the bus. It was like my first or second night. Got on the bus and said to all these old people, we're moving you down to the Ramada, for one day.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Put them in the Ramada and then brought them back. And you learn. I took a break, and Red Carpet Lane sold off, and I'm going to say it was 81, 82. And I was able to buy their smallest 18-lane center. It was called Red Carpet Silver Spring. was phenomenal business. It was a dump inside, but it was a phenomenal business. From what I learned in the bowling alley business, working for Red Carpet, I was able to make this business better.
That's where I met you. I was in radio, and you turned it into Silverbird Lanes, correct? So that's where I finally come into this story. So that's how long? 35 years ago.
We bought it in April of 81.
Yeah.
April of 81.
36 years ago.
Yep.
But then you were fighting also the big chain because Red Carpet still had plenty of centers,
What we were
but they sold off some of them.
What we were really fighting was the downturn in bowling. And this is kind of an interesting side story. Bowling went the way society did. When we were growing up in the 80s, there was league bowlers that were made of blue-collar workers that all worked together, bowled together,
Right.
drank together, and did everything. And bowling was really centered around company leagues, centered around drinking, centered around ladies during the daytime who didn't have to work, drop their kids off in the morning at 7 o'clock. We took care of their kids and fed them sweet rolls, the ladies, and they bowled. And that's when the ladies of leisure, back in those days. And so what happened was, I think the first downfall was ladies had to go back to work. Got to be too expensive. Then the companies started falling apart, and the unions started falling apart, and people didn't bowl as much as they could. So there was a downturn. We had 88 bowling centers back in 82, and gradually they started closing because it was not a cheap business to be in. The maintenance of the building was tough, difficult. And the one thing that's interesting is that as good as bowling was, everybody made more in the bar business.
Well,
more,
sure.
Yeah,
Right.
Bowling was more profitable, but the volume of business was in the bar. As bowling alleys got shut down, I'm leading into what you're asking me.
Right.
We had to get creative, and I was not a Joe bowler. I mean, I bowled in leagues, and on my best day, maybe I was a 225 average. That was probably my best day if I held my breath.
That's pretty good.
When I held my breath and got up to
I think
when I
that's
got up
really
to the
good.
line. So I had to take a different approach, and we had a ton of high-end scratch bowlers at that house, really good bowlers. Either I could try and get more of those bowlers, which was a dying breed, or I could come up with a new concept, and this is where we met. I came up with the concept of the beginner bad bowler party leagues.
Yeah.
And
You were looking for bad
I remember
bowlers.
it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
When you started giving me ad copy, I'm like, what?
Yep.
Yeah, we want bad bowlers.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would go and advertise, we'll give you a ball, bag, shirt, shoes, towel, and a bowling ball just for joining one of our leagues. The idea really took off more than we could believe. For every bowler we lost, we picked up 2 with this program. It was interesting because these people needed to make a commitment, and the only way we could give them a commitment was every 6 weeks they got a little, we called it the gift. So we started out with the towel first, and then we went to maybe the bowling shoes, and then we went maybe at the end they got the bowling ball.
Oh,
so
what a great idea.
They were committed. They had to keep bowling, to get their goodies.
Yeah.
Right. It's like anything. It's like my punch card. I have to come back for the next thing.
And in the bar, we came up with a concept: get a mug, get a mug, get a mug.
Yeah.
And
I remember that too.
Yeah, we went to a radio station, WMYX, and we went to, I forgot, Old Style. WMYX paid for the mugs. Old Style gave us the beer, and they were 32-ounce glass mugs. So the first promo was 1,200 mugs we had. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, 1,200 mugs. Sold out the first night, 1,200 mugs. It was $3.50.
The first night.
Yeah, $3.50. You could drink them, you could keep them. That was our model.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you do that? That must have
It
been
was-
a nightmare.
Well, it was a nightmare. And then we started advertising. You can have a styrofoam cup and keep the cup as a joke because we had all these radio spots. So
Right.
we changed it to a styrofoam cup.
Because you ran out of glass.
Yeah. The next time we did 10,000 glasses.
Holy cow.
Sold out the first week. And then we've done mason jars. We promoted the bar. We promoted the bowling. We also promoted another thing. We had a couple different angles. We would do a food eating contest on the lanes, on the approaches out there. We'd set up 6, maybe 8 banquet tables, and we would get the customers involved. We always believe we want to get our customers actively involved in what we're doing. Even if you didn't bowl, you didn't drink, everybody likes to eat chicken wings.
Sure.
On Easter, it was eggs, hard-boiled eggs, ice cream, hamburgers, pizza, and there would be a sponsor every time would supply all the food, and they'd actually supply the gift money too.
Right.
And then when that ran its course, we would hang a box in the bowling alley, a big glass, plexiglass box, and you'd have to guess how many items are in that box. We'd put shoes in, we'd put golf balls in, whoever got the closest guess, and it would go on until somebody would win the money.
Right.
And every week we'd increase the money. Then we switched from that, because it's kind of boring, we went to the matching cash game. And I don't know if you remember that the lottery had this thing where you turn a letter, and if you could match 2 letters or 3 letters, you'd win. So we spelled out Silverbird's cash pot. And if you could match and get 2 pots, and when you turn the letter, you'd win the money. Everything was to keep the customers staying around and be involved. We didn't want the elite, we wanted the fun.
How did you come up with all these ideas?
You know what? I think TV Lenny gave me the best concepts. Our first concept was join a league, get a bike.
Right.
We'd listen to him and we would copy him. We took all of our league bowlers out to the zoo, and we had guys stationed out in the zoo wearing caps, and it was spelled out Zoofari. So one guy had a Z, one guy had a whatever.
Right.
And you get a card with that Z on it. And you come back, if you got all the cards, a scavenger hunt, you could come back, depending on the number of cards you have, you could pick a color TV. We had a truckload of items, and we called it our Zoofari, and we did that for a couple years. Then we switched and took everybody to the baseball game, gave them all white, hard hats from Miller, and there was prizes if you bowled in our summer leagues.
But all the other traditional bowling centers were going down, 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 because all they sold was bowling.
Right.
And
how do you compete
sold
with all
them
this?
almost
Yeah.
everything but bowling.
Yes.
At the end of the day, they still bowled.
Sure. Yeah,
And
I
joined the
agree.
league
Yeah.
to do all the other fun stuff.
So it was more the experience than it was bowling.
You know what? We always looked at it as meeting people and interacting with people.
Okay.
It wasn't about the sport. I can't tell you how many single people joined the beginner band bowler party leagues. One of my favorite ones was Valentine's Day. I don't know if you remember this, Dan. We had 18 couples dressed up and got married on the lanes.
I do remember that.
Oh, I do remember that.
Throughout the first bowling ball. Then they went to the Brown Bottle for a fish fry there, hey? And then they stayed at the hotel. I will never forget that as long as I run into people now that tell me I ruined their life because they met their wife that night.
Well, let's talk about the hotel.
So then you went back into the hotel business, and we worked together.
Yep.
The Red Carpet Hotel became the Grand Milwaukee
Right.
Hotel.
Actually, you and I changed the name.
Yes,
We were part of that.
yeah, a long time ago.
Yep.
And
Do you remember we copied somebody else and we had to change it to
the Grand Hotel is,
and we had to put Milwaukee in. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah, we had to put Milwaukee in because you got the cease and desist from.
Yeah.
Always fun times.
Yeah.
Always do your homework.
Yeah.
It's before the internet,
Yeah.
where you could check out things like that.
It was more of a Motel 6, and I had a vision.
But it was large. It was the
huge.
largest hotel
Yeah.
in the state.
Oh, it was huge.
510
10
rooms. Yeah.
And 28 meeting rooms, 3 ballrooms.
And it was an independent. It
Yes.
wasn't a chain.
No, we really had the facility. We did a renovation. They remodeled the coffee shop, they remodeled the public space, and they remodeled the gourmet restaurant. And the gourmet restaurant was Harold's, and it was phenomenal. So when I came in there, we had to look at how could we take care of our elite, our great customers. And what we did is we remodeled 100 rooms, and we made sure our corporates only got those rooms until we could remodel the hotel. And we remodeled the public space. Then we needed to create an image, and then we changed the name to the Grand Milwaukee Hotel.
Right.
And then we needed to create some buzz around it, and we did some unusual things, and that's where you and I met.
Yeah, when we went through the branding exercise, you said, okay, we want to be Wisconsin's friendliest hotel, and that's going to be our tag. That's where we're going to go. You were dead set on it, and I was like, the brand is a promise of an experience, and you've got to live up to that. You got to live up to that at every touch point, and that's a tall order. But you pulled it off. Promotion that I think is, again, I looked at you like, okay, is this guy crazy? But it really worked. Was you gave everybody a rubber duck.
We gave everybody a rubber duck, and the front desk staff would say, "Here's your rubber duck. Have a ducky stay," and the people would right away smile. And that's what we wanted to accomplish. And then they would say, "Oh, can I have another one for my grandchild?" Pilots were putting him in the front of the Midwest Express planes in front of the planes, And we would go through, I'm going to tell you, it was like 50,000 rubber ducks a year. It was unbelievable how many ducks we give away.
I think that's so cool. What were some of the other changes that you made to make people feel at home?
Well, do you remember our box, Dan?
Yep.
Oh, my God.
That
I couldn't just do a table tent. We wanted to make some kind of box that we could put in the room that would have our logo on it, and people could have a little lunch in there or some cookies, whatever. But then I also wanted to make it a marketing piece. We put all the logos of the restaurants. If you folded it right, it became a little lunchbox carrying. If you didn't, it was stood up as a point of sale. And then we had what we called our tchotchkes, what's free gift.
Right.
Right.
And so we had so many, but one other one that comes to mind is we had called the weekends were slow on certain times of the year. We'd have our shady deal. People would walk in, we'd say, "You got sunglasses? If you wear your sunglasses, you get the second night free." And they go, "No, I don't." So we'd give them a brochure and say, "Put your sunglasses on and look up the camera so the boss knows you're watching."
Right.
It's just all fun.
Right.
And they would, and so we'd give them the shady deal with sunglasses. Anything we could print our logo on, we did. For our great customers, we had marble. And we started out with a green marble program. The most popular piece was for Christmas, we'd take our top 400 or 500 clients. And we come out and we gave them what do you call those things? You hold your business cards and it tells you who you're at. I can't think of it.
Oh, just a nameplate.
It was a nameplate and hold business card in the back said the Grand Milwaukee Hotel. The front said you were the general manager. that was one of our most successful. So then we kept carrying it forward. We'd give out a paperclip holder. Then one of our other great ideas was to buy off the people that booked the guest rooms at corporate accounts. We gave them points, and the points could be redeemed in certain ways. So it was called our Secret Agents Club. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
So we did this whole thing around 007. We developed a lot of exclusive meeting planners that would book stuff by us.
You know, I still think it comes down to the customer experience, and that's what you always had that differentiated you between your average Wyndham or Marriott. And, you know, Marriott had great, you know, they're known for their customer service and different things like that. But, I mean, you really took it to another level where you had staff buy-in, where in this whole friendly model. I remember you giving me a wad of cash once and saying, walk around the hotel, and I don't care if it's somebody in housekeeping or this or that. Everybody that says hello to you and smiles, give them $5.
They say hello.
And
say
hello.
hello.
You know, and just
hello, how are you? You
right,
get 10.
Right.
Can I help you 15?
Right. Here's $500. Just go walk around the property and hand out money.
We did that with everybody who came to visit me. We'd say, before you leave, can you walk around the property and pass out cash to our employees?
But they never knew who that was or who that was going to be. So it was just a great employee incentive program.
In the back of the house, we had the Smiley program. If 3 employees said you smiled a lot, we'd take your picture and hang it up on the wall and give you $100 in the back of the house. And so we tried to make the employees happy, because if our employees were happy to work there, and it's different times now. It was a family back then.
It doesn't have to be, though. Those type of ideas, I think, are really strong. Getting that employee to buy into the brand.
I agree.
The experience, I agree. That's incredibly important. That's probably the most important. But what do you think are the secrets behind getting noticed when there's a ton of competition out there?
Well, you know what we did? And Dan was part of this too. We took our best customers. I don't care who they were. We made them TV stars. We had them on television telling everybody how friendly we were. And first of all, the guy's never going to pull his business because he's on television telling everybody how friendly we are, you know? And that was a huge success for us. I have to say that was probably the strongest marketing program we did.
Yeah, for getting the business clientele. Yeah, we did a lot of morning news programming, television, and had all the corporate meeting planners on TV and let them tell their story.
The other thing, too, is that I always wanted to know. I never said to an employee, don't tell me. So if there was an unhappy customer, I wanted to know. And I would call. There's always 10 complaints. We found the 10 most common complaints. Everybody turned them in. All the employees gave us the 10 most common complaints. We picked them, came up with the 10 best answers, put them on a card. And any banquet waitress had a complaint. Oh, the temperature's too cold. And everybody gave the same answer. Whatever it was, everybody was thinking the same thing because they all were involved in making this card of complaints and how to give the proper answer. So it was really an interesting experience doing that.
Great idea. I'm sure you flop sometimes in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Because you never had fear of trying the unusual.
The Silverbird Summerfest tent, there was a big flop. We tented in the whole parking lot. Oh, that was terrible.
But I think the point is you were never afraid to fail.
Oh, no. You know, my feeling was, and I think Dan probably heard this before, if we can't book it, we'll create it. Our favorite one was Passport to Party. That was probably the biggest, most outstanding event that we all did in this room. I mean, we created looked like a passport. And it was your ticket to come in. And we set up 5 ballrooms with different theme cities. And you could win a flight to that theme city from Northwest.
Yeah, we partnered with Channel 12.
And Northwest.
And Northwest Airlines.
Yep.
And everybody brought their customers. You brought your best customers. Channel 12 brought their best customers. So the 3 of you.
It was the party. It was the party of the year. And then my next favorite thing was doing a FAM tour. And a FAM tour is where you bring in people from different cities, meeting planners, and you tour them around the hotel. They didn't know they were involved in a murder mystery. And so we took them around. We had a health club. I mean, Jason in our parking lot was in 8 racquetball courts, 12 tennis courts. It was a big place. And we also actually had a bowling alley back there, too. And so we would take everybody on a FAM tour. This was our greatest thing, our FAM tour. They were coming into the health club, and a body fell out of a closet with all blood. You know, and so the sales director would start screaming and running out. You know what? They all remembered our hotel.
I'm sure
they all did.
In the right way?
Yeah, it was. It really was. They all talked about it.
Yeah, because it was a gag.
Well, you have to understand, in the end, they had to solve the mystery. So we took them into Harold's restaurant, and they had to find out who killed that guy. And they got so involved. It was just great. And this was before murder mysteries were popular.
Sure.
Yeah.
What a great idea, too, because here you are in another city. You don't know what to do that night, and you can have more fun staying in your hotel that night.
That's interesting you say that because, you know, we did a huge weekend business, and we had one thing that most hotels didn't have back then. You'd come in and you would get a dinner in the coffee shop, a dinner in Harold's. This is your weekend package. You get 4 games of bowling for each person, pizza and beer. You get a couple hours of tennis, and we packaged that all together in your weekend, and nobody else could do that because of the facility we had. So it was kind of cool. Though our weekend packages couldn't be touched. The biggest thing that we had, though, was the park and stay program we came up with.
Sure.
You get one night in the hotel, and you get to park your car, and we run back and forth. Now
Now they all do it.
They all do
yeah,
it.
Now
yeah.
they all do
That
it,
was-
but it was a great idea. You keep saying you can't do this stuff anymore. Why not?
Employees, you need to follow through. That's just my opinion, and I have no employees anymore. People are not money motivated at certain levels anymore. It certainly is about treatment, how they treated, but there's more. They
Yeah,
just
culture plays a bigger role than money now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, let's face it. You go out to eat in a restaurant right now, and this is my opinion, you expect bad service. When you get good service, God, you're bragging about it. And it used to be the old days, you brag about the bad service. Now you brag about the great service, because I go out to eat and I expect to get bad service. Pretty sad, but I do.
Well, not all the time, but you're right. I'm very excited when it's a really, really,
Really
great
good experience, right.
So I don't want to let that comment about I don't have any employees now just hang there. There's a reason why you don't have any employees. You're now an independent mortgage broker.
But I had employees with as a mortgage broker.
Yeah, but right now,
No, but even when I was, I did.
Oh.
And they changed the mortgage laws in 2000. I had 7 mortgage guys working for me and 3 processors. They changed the law in 2000. I'm going to say 9 or 10. I can't remember anymore. Or 12. I don't remember. And I had to meet federal government guidelines as far as mortgage people. It was a matter of pay and scheduling, and it just wasn't worth it, considering I did 40% of the sales in the office myself. I didn't need the employees. And it was probably the best thing I ever did.
But that's another industry now that's a crowded space. I mean, you can get a mortgage from a
Yes.
bank. There's a lot of mortgage brokers. There's the internet, with Rocket Mortgage
Sure,
and
sure.
Lending Tree, and you can shop 75 people all at one time, and however that works. How do you stand out in that space now?
It's interesting because they keep changing the rules and the paperwork for mortgages with the customer sees. When I started out, it was 1 page. And it told you what your costs were, and it was pretty simple. They didn't think it was simple enough, so they made it 3. Then they made it 2.
now it's like 40 pages. Isn't
Well,
it?
the application's 40 pages. They want to know that you're not a terrorist, you're not laundering
Right.
money, you're not storing hazardous chemicals. So then they came out with the 4-page rule. And the 4-page rule, nobody really understands it. There is no such thing as no closing costs. It's either reflected in a higher rate, it's rolled into the mortgage. There is no such thing. And getting a mortgage I compare it to getting a colonoscopy. It's really, there's more things to getting a mortgage. It starts with your credit score, then it goes to your equity in the property, then it goes to your assets, and then it will go to whether you're escrowing taxes, insurance. But the most important thing, credit score, equity and property, determine your mortgage rate. From then on, it really depends on your ego. People will spend $5,000 just to walk around and say they got a great rate just because they want to say that, and it really doesn't pay for it. If you can't recover your costs in 3 to 4 years on a mortgage, refinancing, it doesn't pay to do it.
Having said that, is there any way to stand out in the mortgage business?
It's difficult. I listened to a guy who I think does a great job, Brian Wickert from AccuNet, and they're a money machine. He's developed a software that he knows exactly when someone needs refinancing. And so for me, back to your question, the way I make it is I got my real estate license about 10 years ago. My wife and I did. I'm a little bit like Gruber. One call does it all. I pre-qualify people. I walk them through everything, and I have a spiel that takes me about an hour and a half to go through. And the difference about us is it's like the hotel business. We really care. I'll give you an example. We have a deal right now going where the client wants to buy a house with no basement. Small house, about 1,250 square feet that somebody flipped and remodeled. Garage, you could fit a semi in. The husband's like, oh my God, he's in the garage. He's in the garage, and the wife's in the
Never have
kitchen.
enough garage.
Yeah. So the garage is great. And my wife couldn't sleep last night, saying this is not the right house. You don't buy a house that's been flipped. They doubled the price, and it's only $150, but still, but no basement. Nobody has a house in Wisconsin with no basement. We're not in LA, And the other problem is young kids get excited. Every house they love, and so for us, it's really not about the sale. And I'm going to get to your point in a second how I survive. It's about making sure that 5 or 6 years from now, when they want to sell, they remember to call us. And we're in that cycle now that we've sold so many houses that these people, young kids, are moving. I can give you a list of people's of whose houses we've sold for their kids. But they remembered the experience. So my wife and I will help write the offers. We'll help sell their house, and we'll do the mortgage. And you're getting commissions from all sorts of the ends. So I don't have to be a big company to make a comfortable living anymore.
Sure.
And I don't have to have employees. I do my own loan processing. When I tell you your loan's going to go through, it does. I don't have people that don't get mortgages because I won't waste my time.
But you have to make a lasting impression
Yeah,
on
that's the key.
somebody.
Yes.
Because everybody knows a realtor. right?
Yep. When they leave, we give them a tchotchke, a calculator. And I say, hey, when things don't add up, look at the name right there in the phone number.
There you
and it's
go.
also a senior citizen calculator with the big numbers.
I love the way your mind thinks. So can you help in any state?
No, I only have my license in Wisconsin. I have a national mortgage broker's license, but I can only do mortgages in Wisconsin unless I go to each state and take a 55-question test.
So we have an audience that spans hopefully the globe, but at least the United States. Give me 3 things that you should look for if you're going to get a mortgage broker. So again, there's a lot of choices in this space. So you as being in that business, what would you recommend? If I was going to hire you in
I do that same thing.
Tennessee, what's the process a person should go through?
I do that same thing because I have people that'll say, I'm buying a home in Florida. Craig, do you know a mortgage broker? It's extremely difficult for a layman to do it. I wish I had a good answer for you.
Yeah.
I would say that I would look at their presence online, see if they're on, if there's any bad information about them. But I always believe you should use a mortgage broker just because you're probably going to get a better choice of rates and costs. And banks really, they don't care that they have your money with you. They don't care that they have your mortgage with you because they've already sold the mortgage to Fannie Mae and they're just servicing it. And that's how money flows. So if you're going to do something, go online and look.
So look for reviews, you're saying. Look for Google.
And then ask them for the key thing, a loan estimate. Don't do anything until you get a loan. Don't even apply for it. Tell them, here, my credit score. They all want to know your credit score. If you want to let them pull it, it's fine. It doesn't really affect your rating unless you have 10 of them pull it. Mortgage brokers are excluded from the ratings. If you want to have them pull your credit score, tell them to give you what's called a loan estimate. It's that 4-page thing. And what I tell people is, if you owe $100,000 on your mortgage and your new mortgage is $110,000, I guess you're paying closing costs. So that's the easiest way to look at it. How much do I owe? What's my new mortgage going to be? And if your new mortgage is going to be $6,000 or $7,000 more, ask why. Why am I having a $6,000 or $7,000 higher mortgage?
Because that's your closing cost.
It's right there. It's rolled in the mortgage.
And that's their fee.
Well, it depends. I don't get paid from the borrower. I sign up for let's just say a commission from every bank that I'm with and every level. I mean, it can be 1%, it can be 3%. 3% is a national cap, and 3% doesn't even always apply on smaller loans too. The government has rules which you can make under loans under $75,000 or $50,000. So what happens is that's called lender paid mortgage. So if you borrow $100,000 from me and I've signed up for 2%, I get $2,000. That's what I get paid from the lender for you doing the mortgage. Then what happens is, let's say you want a 4% interest rate. A 4% interest rate may cost you your title policy, your appraisal, all sorts of things. But say you want 4.5%. Well, that may not cost you anything, but you're paying 4.5% interest.
So what you really paid over the period of 15 years, 10 years, 30 years.
That's why I say there's no such thing as a free mortgage. It's all about what you're paying in the end. But the simple rule, as I said before, look what your starting loan was when you started and look at your ending loan. If it's too much, you're paying too much.
I think I could talk to you, Craig, for hours on end. You're so fascinating. You're entertaining. So much fun. And I would bet there are people out there who are saying, well, I want him to be my mortgage broker. How would they reach out to you?
262-241-4300. 262-241-4300.
Geez, didn't know you were a jingle singer.
Marketing. Yeah, he's still working
Hey.
And you have a website.
Yep, it's ShoreCrestMortgage.com. ShoreCrestMortgage.com.
You couldn't jingle that.
No, I couldn't.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your insight, and you've given us a lot of good information and inspiration. To me, my big takeaways is don't be afraid to try something a little different, a little off the wall.
And it's also about the customer experience.
At the end of the day, the customer has to have a great experience.
Exactly.
You know what? You're never too old to reinvent yourself. And
That's true.
That's really the thing. I've reinvented myself a lot.
You really have, and you've come out on top every time.
Not every time. Yeah.
Right. So to our listeners, if you like what you've heard today, please don't forget to share, review, and subscribe to Brandstorm. This is Dan Trzynski along with Nancy Christopher at Platypus Advertising and Design, an awesome marketing company that works with a variety of regional, national, and even global brands. We hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Brandstorm.